So thanks. We are in a day 5. So in the last 4 days, whatever we have discussed, maybe a very quick recap of those things. So for when we talk about entire agile software development process, so it's all about agile practices. And when we say agile practices, it is of the agile principles, manifesto, and the agile values. And at the core, we are seeing need to deliver rapid value and respond to change. That is the main uh, objective of moving and shifting to the agile development. Now, the key drivers for Agile is anyway we are doing Agile as a Kanban into our current project. So let us see what are the drivers. So first driver is time to market, which means the problem space is delivering new feature to customer usually takes long time. We have seen in waterfall V model and some others model as well. But when we practice Agile, it will help us to take small steps, fail quickly. That's why we say fail fast in Agile. Invest in building a solid technical foundation. So when you have very strong core foundation on the build of that, if you are making a bigger software application, the stability of that particular product will be very good. If our foundation is weak, then the stability is not going to come. And when all this thing matters is, um, so the example which I can give is from my past organization where we have done several acquisition. So the software was related with the schools districts in US. So a small organization, when they creates a software, that time their objective was, okay, let's target for no just a handful of teachers, students, and maybe no 100 200 schools. That's it, or maybe couple of districts like that, or maximum say suppose 50 districts, and our job is done. Now, when this bigger players used to acquire those smaller company because of whatever good reputation or trends which they set in the market, then you will be having a similar product line for the same product. If it is a student information system, you had now you did 6 acquisition, and now you are having 6 similar product. Now, as a bigger organization, you don't want to carry forward all the 5 products. So as a product owner, um, uh, what we are going to do is, as a product owner, we will do comparative analysis of all the existing product line which we are having, and then maybe we can categorize as no tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and so on. So whoever is the tier 1 and tier 2 product, we will try to continue on those products who is having more market share, better user experience, easy to use, better features and functionality, and then we will ask other customer who were into the product number 3, 4, and 5 to move into the product 1 and 2. Now what is going to happen here? So when the product 1, still we did so much analysis, and when all the customers, existing customers from uh, those products shifted to product 1. So when product 1 was created, say suppose before 5 years, that time their objective was just to target 50-60 districts. But when it got merged with a bigger organization, we had 13,000 districts. Imagine 13,000 districts, and if I talk about student base, somewhere around 100 million students we were having. So that time it becomes huge problem for the entire organization to support that many customer because of the stability only because of the performance issue. Our marketing team was ready to take more and more no leads and do contract with the and the onboarding, but the engineering team was not ready to take that much load. So we have to stop. No, no, no. Don't onboard more customers right now. Why? First, we will see what is the technical that in the product one. We will fix it. We will stabilize it. We will work on non-functional requirements and all the security measures and all. And then once we are ready to no handle that much load, that many number of users on the system, then we will take it forward. So along with time to market, the building a solid technical foundation is very, very important. That we will get when we do best agile practices. If I talk about product utility, in Big Bang, when we deliver everything, we deliver all the features, and you know the Pareto's rules, 80-20% principle. Out of those many features, the 20% of the features will be more accessed, more used by the customer. 80% of features are rarely used. So when we comes to agile, when it comes to the product utility, we'll focus on the MVP. So customer are a part of our team represented by the product owner. Then the product owner will say with the prioritized backlog here, I don't bother about those 80% of the features which is not used more frequently. My focus is in this 20% of the feature. Out of those 20% of the feature, in the prioritized backlog, he will keep on adding the most MVP kind of items. So that is how we will give more value to the product utility. And the third last thing is quality to the market. In a Big Bang, when we go, the quality will be poor. But here, automated testing, TDD, that is test driven development, paired programming, all these things like QPS, QAW, all these practices will make our quality so strong. When I say automated test, which means you have full UI automation, regression automation, that is the reason within a same sprint, you will finish everything. And when the sprint is completed and there is a go from the product owner, we will be in a position to do the production deployment. Pair programming is something where two developers are working on like on the single system or on the some common functionality, and there they will do the knowledge sharing, and then and there in the development phase itself, if there is any bug, that can be find out. So these three are the key drivers of agile: faster time to market, better product utility, and quality also to the market. Now moving forward, other drivers are flexibility, because in the V model or in other traditional model, if the change request comes, you will be having significant delays and the quality issues, because there you need to do the huge amount of change. For a smaller change, also entire design will be changed, because that's how the entire development goes. You freeze everything, and you have no scope of flexibility and adaptability, and to invest and adapt yourself. But here, when we do agile practices, so team will be having flexibility and the technical flexibility also, because here our one of the focus will be for automation testing also. If anything fails, if anything breaks, obviously the test case, the automation test case fails, and we are going to fix it and then move forward. Visibility, transparency, already we have seen that business keeps on chasing earlier, okay, how my product is going to look after 3 months or 6 months, 9 months, and so on. But here you will be having a business ownership of the requirement with the help of product owner. You'll be having frequent delivery. You will be having regular demos and sprint retro and everything. So the visibility is very transparent. When we talk about cost also, the changes are too expensive in the change management or the change request phase or in the maintenance phase. It's highly the organization used to ask more charge to the customer because of the changes, because for a small change also the effort will be huge. But here in Agile, when we had the automation testing and the refactoring and the evolutionary design, that reduces our cost. Here design is fixed, but with Agile, our design is more agile and flexible enough where we can keep on adding more feature and functionality. When we talk about product lifetime, as you know, the changes are risky. Any new change, if we are going to push, will be having a huge regression issue. Whereas here, the product lifetime is you pay, you go, QA things are automated. You are, if you fail also, you will be having a safety net for doing any changes. So that's how the product lifetime is very good. So the modern software development organization across the IT industry, now their focus is changing from output to outcomes. When we say output, earlier it was quantitative, plan driven. Okay, I want this output, this output, this output. Uh, like what is the measure of project progress in good old days? Okay, if there is some Excel sheet, blue, yellow, green kind of theme, if the QA team says, okay, it is a sign off, sign off, sign off, which means product is delivered. If there are features, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, it is delivered. And then when the testing, actual production testing goes after UAT, then many bugs and everything will be found out. But here, when it comes to Agile, we focus on quality. We focus on outcomes. And the outcome is what? Outcome is workable, shippable software. Working software is the main focus. So from output, the shift is to the outcome. And already we have seen from a Scrum definition perspective, cross-functional team, self-managing team, and the working software. These three things are a key. So for any development framework within the Agile, because Agile is having several development flavors, like no, Scrum is one of the things, and we have seen the Kanban, Scrumban, and many other thing, RUP and all, Crystal, so extreme programming and all. So their cross-functional self-managing team, they all together going to deliver a working software every day and every sprint. And the team size we already seen, that is 3 to 9 people, uh, where all the team members all together, they will do the actual work of analyzing, designing, developing, testing, technical communication, documentation, if whatever is there, the entire team will do. We don't have any distinction within a team as a development team or a testing team or a technical writer or something like that. No, no, those distinctions are not there. And when we say working software, it is very critical to implement the empirical methodology that we have seen on the day one, the first slide which we have seen. So many times the business will ask, okay, what should we build? And unless and until all the requirements are not fully known and the user won't try it after 1 year or after 2 years, they won't find the bugs, or they won't find the limitations and the drawback. And after that, working on those things is quite impossible. But here with Agile, we'll be having always working software which the MVP will deliver. So coming back to the stories, so yesterday, so that was the recap for few of the slides which I just took from the first 4 days of session. Now, um, so now we will continue to see how the stories we are writing. We have seen the story should be simple and then in a form of an end customer. So, and somewhere in the slide you can recall there is a word invest I was mentioning. So let's see what is the meaning of invest, how by following the invest guideline we can write a very good story. So I stands for independent, N is negotiable, V stands for valuable, estimatable, small and testable, which means uh, if you know the acid property in the transaction, that is the isolation and independent, what we say. So each story in itself is independent, not dependent on other things, can be negotiable, and every story carries some values. Means if you remember our process of product backlog refinement, where we had no 4 5 diamond boxes, where if there is any idea which the end customer says and the product owner analyzes, and if and only if it adds value to the working software, to the vision which he had, then only we will accept, all the or the product owner will reject. And the more granular story you are having, you can do better estimation. For bigger stories, estimation will be very vague. So keep it small, and testable means you should have that acceptance test criteria, and we can verify it. Going more detail into that, when we say independent, it should not be dependent on other stories. Obviously, there should be some dependency in terms of functionality when it is an integration kind of a feature you are developing, but on its whole, the story should be independent. What is the meaning of negotiable here? Which means the story should capture the essence of requirement and should not represent a contract how to solve it. Only when it comes to contract, we talk about negotiating the thing. But for us, main essence is on the requirement. That requirement should be covered into our stories. Valuable, already we have seen that it should give some value to the end customer, to the end product. And estimation is it should have enough information so that you can estimate. If the information is not present, again the developer or the scrum master or the team will go back to product owner, and product owner will add those information which will suffice the better estimation of the story. When we say estimation, it's about mainly the story pointing which we do. And small is more granular, the scope uh, which we can define. It will make the life easy for us to complete that particular thing. And then we always say push always the small chunk of code in a working software, so that if something is going to break, the impact will be less. And the finally testable is the stories needs to be understood well enough so that all the testings criteria, situation, boundary test cases can be defined for them. And the effective way to ensure testability is to define user acceptance criteria, the acceptance test which I was saying for all the user stories. And how we are going to do, how we are going to define user acceptance criteria also, we are going to see it in the subsequent slide. So when when a end customer or a client going to sit with the product owner and will give the requirement, it will be at very high level. Why at a very high level? in the good old days when we were not following agile, they will give very high level requirements, and then after once the requirements are freeze, you will do the sign off, the contract is signed, and then once you start, the detailing starts, and then client keep on saying, the customer keep on, I know, I want this, I want this, and then it's difficult to deliver, and that is the loophole how the scope creep and the project creep happens. But here, yeah, we'll be having, whenever the product owner is going to decide, he will be having epics first, and then epics product owner is going to break it down further into user stories, and those epics or user stories will come into the product backlog. And finally, within the user stories, he will break down it into the sub stories or a task, or the task can be further broken down into the subtasks. So this is how the entire breaking of the things will done. Now moving to a very important part, that is, what is this definition of ready? This is very important. Over Jira also, you will be seeing when we are using Jira, unless and so there will be different status of any story. So by default, the default status is kind of a open. Open means it's open. When backlog grooming happens, when product owner, scrum master, and the entire dev team discussed, when they do story pointing, when there is no doubt that okay, from the requirement perspective, everything is clarified, that time we will say this specific story is ready for development, and then only from this product backlog it can be pulled to the sprint backlog. Unless and until product story is not ready for development, we are not going to put it into the sprint backlog. It will lies in the product backlog only. So definition of ready is basically a working agreement between the team and the product owner on what readiness means. It's an input criteria to plan a story in a sprint. Getting this point? Unless and until this definition of ready the story is not ready for development, it is not going to come in the sprint, and it's your internal mutual agreement between the product owner and the team member. If the team member agrees, okay, I got all the information, now I'm good to start with this stories, then only the status of that particular story will be moved from open to ready or ready for development. And it is a way for a product owner to indicate an item in the product backlog as it is ready in the next sprint. So we are having PBI. So PBI means what? Product backlog items. So the moment I say it is ready, which means it can pull it into the next sprint or next to next sprint. If it is not ready, means still the grooming has to happen, and it is accountability of product owner that there is definition of ready which should be defined. And very important and beautiful point is Scrum team can always refuse to take any item into the sprint if it is not ready for development. If the definition of ready is not there, Scrum Master or Scrum team can say, hey, I am not going to work on this story because it's not ready for development. How come this, when the story is not ready for development, it got moved to the sprint backlog? And then suppose, and in practically you will be having, oh, something is very urgent with less information, it's added, and then there is a pressure and it got assigned, it got pulled in. So if such thing happens, we will be having a next sprint retro. In the sprint retro, highlight what didn't went well there, and in the action items, it should not happen in the next sprint. This is how the learning and more maturity team is going to gain from a process perspective, and Who will ensure that all these things? Okay, first is the product owner because it's his baby. Secondly, the scrum master is the gatekeeper, the checkpoint. Okay, that the things are happening. Third, a dev team member itself should see when I got any specific story to work upon, whether definition of ready is there or not. Moving to third bullet point is the team is going to make an explicit and visible criteria based on that invest, the last slide which we have seen, that user story must meet all those criteria before any upcoming iteration which we are having. So before accepting, you can go back and see whether this invest it is made by following this invest criteria or not. So that also uh, can be a part of ready. So this is the entire combined responsibility of everyone. Fine. Any doubt? Shall I move? So definition of ready is one term which we have seen. We'll be moving to next term, that is DOD, definition of done. What does this definition of done mean is the team agrees and displays prominently somewhere in the team room or a list of criteria which must be met before a product increment. When we say product increment, it is often a user story which is considered as done. When the user story is said as done, which means it will go on add in the working software. So we will say this term as okay, the product got incremented, which means the feature got added into the product. If you don't have definition of done, if we cannot put all the checklist, especially who is going to do the testing? The team member can also do the testing. The same developer can do the testing. You can do pair programming and do the testing, but that testing is a phase. So in order to pass with that testing phase, because we have all the phase within the sprint only, and the sprint itself is small. So, this specific definition of done should be there. And failure to meet this criteria at the end of sprint normally implies that the work should not be counted towards the sprint velocity. So we'll be seeing in detail what is sprint velocity. But suppose developer is saying, hey, I have completed everything from my side. And then when he has given it to the peer review, his peer member is reviewing or doing a testing, and that time he found okay, out of 5 definition of done criteria, 1 criteria is not met, or the product owner sees at the time of go, no go, or done, not done, and you're giving sprint a demo, and it is the last day also where you cannot do further changes at last moment. So always, whenever we are giving a demo and review, we should ensure that okay, we are having enough buffer time for incorporate any review comments. So review comments when you will get review comments when you do the PR review or when you do the actual code and other team members reviews. Apart from that, you will get review comment from a other team member who is doing the testing for you, or lastly you will get a review comment, the final review comment when the product owner is going to see. So in different organization it will be different. Sometimes a developer will work in the dev environment and then he will push the things to the QA environment, and the product owner says, hey, I don't believe in dev environment and QA environment. If you are going to move it in the UAT environment, I am going to verify and I will see by myself sometimes when you are offline, and if it passes in the UAT environment, I will say okay, it is done when all the definition of done criteria is met, or else I am going to fail that story. If the story is failed, if the story is having, say, suppose 3 story point, if the story got failed, it is not going to count in your sprint completion. That's why it is not going to count towards your sprint velocity and you will lose that story point. So as a team, our objective will be, again, as I said, to have a successful sprint completion. We don't want sprint to fail. So there will be some percentage which we are going to agree upon 85%, 90% or 95%, whatever. That means stories has to be completed. That's why this DOD is very important. It is team specific, not universal. One point to be noted, and can be updated upon team's agreement. So the product owner, the team members, whatever you feel, okay, this is my definition of them. Because when you are defining a story, you are having something in your mind that is known as scope. Okay, for this user story, this is the scope, in scope, and something which is related, but that is out of scope. Maybe we can take it into another story, and that is maybe the boundary condition or exceptional criteria that can be part of other things. So the product owner and the team member is deciding, no, whatever our mutual agreement is, that should go in the definition of that. So definition of ready was the first thing, definition of done is the second thing, and the third important thing is acceptance criteria. So I'm talking all these things, all these three terms with respect to any single story. In acceptance criteria, the conditions criteria that must be met in order for user story to be completed. Say suppose if it is a bug, if it is a defect, what generally happens, we will say, okay, step number 1, 2, 3, 4 up to step number 14. This is how you will reproduce. This is how the steps happen. And then you will be having the actual result and the expected result. So when the actual result differs from the expected result, it is a bug, it failed. But when the actual result and the expected result matches, which means it is a pass. Likewise, you will be having different conditions or criteria. Maybe for meeting to that condition, you may need to follow certain step, but after following those steps, that specific condition should be met from the user stories, or else uh, that story is failed. We won't consider that story. So that is the reason acceptance criteria must be defined in a user story. A good user story should have definition of ready, should have definition of done, and the third important thing is acceptance criteria. That should state what to be done, not how to do it. Very important. We are not going to do detailing, go update there in that table, put this value, insert that specific column, do this, do that, change in the controller, or this should happen, that should happen. No. We'll only say, okay, what is needed, and if that result is met, then our acceptance criteria is met. How the things has to happen, that is left over to the dev team, the engineering team or a Scrum team. And it should capture intent, not development reality. When we say development reality, okay, how much time, effort, this, that, and there are so many things which will come in the practical reality. So that is not the intention. Our objective is just to capture the intent, what that specific user story mean, what that user story want. Okay, so acceptance criteria is clear to us. We'll move, and maybe we can see some example of good acceptance criteria. So this is one style where we are saying given, when, and then. You can see this three condition, given some condition, some precondition, which says, okay, you are going to set some initial condition state. If that thing happens, when some action has to occur, you are going to describe any key or action. Then you are going to describe the specific outcome. Okay, if we follow this three part, then we can say, okay, the user story is having good acceptance criteria. When in the description you will write. So, but variation here and there is okay, but at least what is the statement, what is the situation, and when that thing is going to happen, then what should happen, what is the expected. So precondition, action and result, those three things should be part of your acceptance criteria. Let's see some example. Like the list of expected behavior can be, it is good if you find, we called it as gherkin style, to be restrictive or burdensome. Sometimes given a portion of the style is already understood or assumed as a part of story. But when and what is the action needed, what is the outcome, that is something which we have to see. Because from the first line or first statement itself, it will be clear sometimes, okay, what is needed. Example, user should be able to do some action. So user should be able to book ticket, okay, with some condition or criteria, that is no tatkal booking or a premium booking, something like that. When he do before 24 hours, then only that booking happens, or else before 24 hours of window, that call booking is not going to open, something like that. So you are seeing what action is needed, when it is needed, and then what should happen. So you should be able to action, and then what is going to be there. So one example, if we see, like given there is at least one lookup list within a customer solution. So now given is completed, we are moving to when part. So you just focus on the words which are highlighted in the red text. When the user views the lookup list configuration, now when part is completed, now we are moving to then part. Then the user should be presented with an option to download all the solutions lookup list. So see, it is clear, given, when, and then. When the user selects this option, all the existing lookup within the solution should download within one CSV file. The format of the file should mirror that of CSV file downloaded. When, again, we are saying when. So you can have several when also. When exporting single lookup list, with the exception that a new column, a title list should be inserted. So when we say should be inserted, means we are talking about action. Then what should happen? The list column should contain the name of uh, each of the list. So we are saying what it should do. Again, the action. The list should appear in the file in the same order that they exist within the UI. So again, we are talking about what should happen, means then part. So it's not important always to write then, but we are understanding the list should, within each list item should appear in the file in the same order that they exist within the UI. So this is how we are breaking it down. So making more sense. Now if you see the final para, try to read. Given there are no lookup list within a customer solution, when the user views the lookup configuration, then user should be presented with an option to download all the solution lookup list. So this is what we want, and if we further break it down, you can see the middle sentence, how we are breaking it down for our analysis. So that can be one of the example. Now we'll be moving to Scrum ceremonies. When we say Scrum ceremonies, there are a couple of 4-5 ceremonies which will happen, and we'll see who will be the owner of each ceremony. What are those Scrum event we are talking about? So we'll see sprint planning meeting, daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retro. Backlog grooming will happen continuously. That backlog grooming refinement someone can put in the Scrum event, but that is not the actual Scrum event, but something which is important, and the product owner will be taking care of the backlog grooming. That is a continuous process, as your product backlog is a live document. And this will go in sequence, which means you will be having a sprint planning at the starting of the sprint. Again, sprint planning meeting 1 and 2, that also we'll see in detail. Then you will be having a daily stand-up or daily scrum. At the end of the sprint, or whenever your story is completed, you are giving sprint review. And finally, when sprint is completed, you are going to do retrospection, and what went well, what didn't went, and how you are going. So this is the place where we say flexibility, where we will look back. Okay, what are the things we have done? Then we'll look forward, for the next sprint, what we have to do. Not in terms of story points and all, that is a part of sprint planning, but in terms of process, executions, collaboration, and the other aspect. Okay, so let's talk about sprint planning meeting. Usually we say the work which should be performed in the sprint is going to be planned in this sprint planning. And the plan is created by collaborative work of entire Scrum team, which means if product owner himself wants to conduct sprint planning meeting, if he himself will decide, hey, I want this many stories to be delivered, then is it going to be agile? No, that is not going to be agile. Okay, where we are just imposing. It's self-organizing team. So the collaboration, the participation of the team member is also equally important. And when we talk about number of hours, if you are having a sprint of 1 month, then we are saying maximum 8 hours you can do. If you are having a sprint of 2 weeks, then maximum 4 hours. You can break it down likewise. When we say maximum, it includes sprint planning meeting 1 and 2. And sometimes some of the product owner will club at least not the product backlog grooming, at least the sprint backlog grooming uh, in that. For shorter sprint, the event will be usually shorter, and the Scrum Master will ensure that event is going to take place and all attendants should understand its purpose. Now, say suppose you are having a 6 team member and 3 team members did not turn up, then if that situation happen, then what is going to happen? Then Scrum Master is going to talk to those 3 team members, and will explain the importance of attending this sprint planning, because it is very important, and that is how we are deciding the sprint goal, and we need to work on that for next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, or 1 week, whatever the sprint length is. So your sprint planning is going to answer mainly 2 things. What can be delivered in the incremental resulting from the upcoming sprint? That is first thing. Second thing is, how will the work needed to deliver the increment to be achieved? Which means in sprint planning meeting 1, you are pulling out the stories, the PBI from a product backlog to the sprint backlog. That is the sprint planning meeting 1, or the first part. Second part is, when this is done, then you are deciding how we are going to deliver it. Further breaking it down into the task, subtask, further discussing on that, doing story pointing and all these things if it is not done. Okay, so this is the first ceremony. Second ceremony is your daily scrum. So daily scrum will be 15 minutes. When we say 15 minutes, it in 15-minute time box for 3-member to 9-member team. If it is a 3-member team, that is enough. If it is 9-member team, sometimes it tends to extend because there are many team members who will share. And if it is a bigger team, then there can be some exception. But what Agile says from a Scrum's perspective, we must not have daily stand up more than 15 minutes. Suppose if you are having just 15, and why we say stand up? Everyone is working. So the second point is, every day it will happen after every 24, same time, same place each day to reduce the complexity. Now it is decided that, okay, 10 a.m. Usually, uh, it will happen at the starting of the day or when the day ends. Sometimes when you have teams not co-located in different time zone also, that time you may decide, okay, any one time, maybe the evening of IST hours, which will the morning of USR, and that is whatever team completes, they will say, and this team, whatever they are going to complete, they are going to say. So more focus will be to inspect the progress towards team goal, nothing else. That is the main focus. The structure is very simple. What I did yesterday, every team member, when they are saying what I did yesterday, what I am planning to do today, and is there is any blocker, any impediments which is preventing me to go forward. Explicitly, three things he has to or she has to say: what I did yesterday, or say suppose it is happening in the evening, what I did today, what I am going to do tomorrow. It can be changed in that way, and any blocker. If there is no blocker, also call out no blocker. I am fine, I am going smooth. If there is a blocker, then Scrum Master is going to make a note of it, that okay, I need to unblock this particular person. Why it is known as stand up also sometimes? Suppose your team members are working in a work bay where two developers, and they are co-located, and they know okay, everyone is working on their work. It's 10 a.m. Everyone will stand up, will give their update, and done within 15 minutes, and again we'll go back to work. So it is saving the time, and then no other meeting is required on that specific day. This point is very important. It's not for problem solving, and this is the mistake which many Scrum Masters will do, because usually Scrum Master will run the daily Scrum, not the product owner. In Scrum Master absence, the product owner will also do sometime. And if no one is there because of any reason, then the team themselves can do. But again, they are not going to discuss the detailing into the Scrum. Detailing, technical sync up and all later, because it's just three things you are saying. Entire world is invited, but only team members and Scrum Master can talk. Other cannot talk. Which means if there is any clarification also needed from a product owner, you can sync up later, or else one developer, he is seeking for clarification for the product owner, and that clarification is taking 5 minutes or 7 minutes. The other cannot share their update. That's why we say in a daily stand up or in a daily Scrum, only team member and the Scrum Master is going to talk. Third thing is, it is going to avoid all other meetings where you are going to identify the conversation between the individual and all, because everything is there. So last point, which is very important, it is not a status call. There is a confusion, misconception, and we assume as a developer, when I am working as a developer, I will think, hey, I need to give my status update. I will think, okay, this is my status call. I need to give my status update, and this daily stand up, daily Scrum is nothing but my status which I need to share. But rather, the philosophy of Agile Scrum is, it is a commitment in front of your peer members that this is what I am planning to do. Whatever I did is did. So the focus is not more on what I did. Obviously, that also carries the weight. Whereas in the status call, in a typical status call, everyone will get the status. Hey, how many sales happen usually in the marketing, how many sales happen, how many leads got converted, this, that, whether you completed this or not. The managers will ask like this, and that is a typical status call. So if it is a status call, then we should not say, okay, what I am planning to do, or if there is any blocker or not. That's why it is not a status call. Don't consider this as a status call. Rather, it is a self-organizing team. So it is a mutual commitment which you are giving first to yourself and to your peer members, that, hey, this is what I am planning to do today. And for that commitment, if there is anything, we'll say. So only these three questions: what you do yesterday, what you will do today, and what if anything is in your way. That's it, really, that's it, done. That is the Scrum, that is the daily Scrum, nothing else. Okay, so this will be the last slide which I will be taking, as we are almost about the time, and all these things we already discussed, that the development team or the team members often meet immediately after a Scrum for detailed discussion, or to adapt or replan, or not test or for rest of their sprint work, but that is not counted as daily Scrum. That is apart from Scrum. If you want to do a say technical sync up on anything, say clarification, meetups and all, that you can do offline. Secondly, the Scrum Master ensures that development team has the meeting, but development team is responsible for conducting the daily Scrum. See, it is self-organizing team. So when it is self-organizing team, who is having the entire ownership responsibility? It is we as a dev team. And the Scrum Master, he is going to teach. He will know if someone is absent, then he will be talking to that person, and he will be discussing why it is important to attend all the Scrum ceremonies, including daily Scrum. So Scrum Master teaches the development team to keep daily Scrum within 15-minute time box. Again, Scrum Master cannot alone ensure that the meeting is time box in 15 minutes. If it is going half an hour, 1 hour, which means that's not correct. And who will stretch for half an hour, 1 hour? If any team members will start elaborating everything here, this is my update, this, and so on. Okay, don't get confused with the current calls which we are having. That may go for 1 hour, but that is not a daily Scrum. That is more into a technical discussion, deep dive going into that. And again, it depends on the managers and how the things are happening. But ideally in daily Scrum, this should happen. The daily Scrum is an internal meeting for development team. If others are present, the Scrum Master ensures that they do not disrupt the meeting, which means it may happen. Okay, project manager is there who will come outside, and then he will sit one day, and then he will start asking status. Or product owner will say, oh no, this is that is there. So all the external noises, interruptions, distraction. So who is going to shield the dev team member? The Scrum Master. The Scrum Master comes in role and play. So daily Scrums improves the communications. It eliminates other meetings, because if you don't have this quick sync up, then you may end up having several meetings. Again, at one place itself, it identifies whatever is the impediment for the entire team, because all the team member is saying, hey, I'm having this, or I don't have. So there are 6 team members. Out of 6 team members, 4 team members is no blocker, no blocker, no blocker. 2 team members mention this is my blocker. Second team member, okay, this is my impediment. So Scrum Master just noted down. So for the entire project, this too is the blocker for development perspective, and then offline he will handle. So it is going to promote quick decision making and going to improve team's development level of knowledge, because where you are not working in the silos but as a team together. And this is key inspect and adapt meeting. Okay, this, and then finally we can do that. So that's all about the daily Scrum. Last 3 minutes, I will pause here. And if you are having any queries or doubts which you want to ask on any of the slides which we covered today, feel free. No? Okay, fine. So I will do just quick 1 minute recap of whatever we have seen today. So this were the revision for the practices, principle, values, and respond to change and the rapidness. Key drivers for Agile, we have seen time to market, product utility, quality to market, flexibility, visibility, that is transparency, cost reduction, and product lifetime. Then the shift is from output to outcome, And the definition itself says cross-functional, self-managing and working software. And for a good story, we will try to follow the guidelines for this acronym, that is INVEST, that it should be independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small and testable. And that was the description which we have seen. First, when it comes to the uh, items as a PBI, it may be in the form of epic for a product owner. That epic is going to broken down into the user stories. Further user stories are going broken down into the task, subtask and all. We have seen the definition of ready, where everything, including this invest criteria, invest matrix, when it is being completed, and dev team member is a mutual contract between the product owner and dev team member. When they agree, say, I am having enough information to start my development work, then only we say definition of done is there. And then from a sprint, from a product backlog, this can be pulled to the sprint backlog. Definition of done is where all the things are met, again depending on the mutual agreement. Whatever, all the checkpoints, whatever is needed, we will identify. And the acceptance criteria is also similar to definition of done, but where it is more focusing on what should be done, more focusing on capturing the intent, the criteria and condition, not how part or the development reality. And then we have seen the examples how we can write good acceptance criteria. And then from a Scrum ceremony perspective, today from sprint planning meeting, daily Scrum sprint review and the sprint retro, we have seen in detail how the sprint planning meeting is going to happen, broken it down into two parts, what needs to be delivered into the upcoming sprint and how we are going to achieve that. We'll be focusing on that. And in the daily Scrum, we have seen mainly 15 minutes every day, same place, just 3 questions. And if you give the answer for those 3 questions, what I did yesterday, what's planned for today, and any impediments, we are done with the Scrum call. So that is how we are. Then so 5 days we already completed, and first we plan for completing this sessions in the 5 day, but the content is still more which needs to be covered. So maybe we'll extend for 2 more days. So Monday and Tuesday we will be having day 6 and day 7. So I believe in those 2 days we will be able to cover everything. And then if I can give some examples, live examples also, or the example from the past, how the things got carried, what are the points where the failure may happen, what are the mistakes the teams do, how to overcome from that. I think that will be very good things to do. Okay, guys, we are good.
All good.
Fine, then. Thank you. Have a good day. Happy weekend. We'll see you on
Thank you,
Monday.
Sagar. Have a good day
Thanks,
too.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy weekend.